welcome to this special tribute to a very special person that we love dearly, Paul Carney. It is his birthday, and we are so excited to have found several people that Paul has impacted their life, and they have impacted his life. And so we have live interviews from around the world, and we're going to get started. So bear with us. We may have a few technical problems. And the first one I want to bring on this interview process and tribute to Paul Carney is his first nanny, which is, her name is Rhonda Danda. Rhonda, are you there?
Hi, absolutely, Sam. How you doing?
Well, I'm doing great, and I got a chance to talk to you a little bit. I'm glad my team found you, and I guess you live in Mesna, Africa now. Is that right? Or
Oh, absolutely. Can you tell by the way I look?
yeah, well, you look to me. But now listen, I want to get in because we got several people want to interview. You were a professional nanny, and you were hired by the Carney family to be a personal nanny to Paul Carney. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
I was.
And where did you live when they contacted you?
I lived in Andalusia, Alabama,
Okay.
and that's in North America.
Okay.
And they called me and wanted to interview me to take care of him.
Okay. And so I guess they lived in Chicago or outside of Chicago at the time.
They did. They did.
And so back then they didn't have cameras like what we're doing now. How did you do your interview? Was it all by phone? Or?
We did everything by telephone, a little bit of telegraph, but mainly by telephone.
Okay. So I guess you went back and forth and they hired you and you moved to Chicago, right?
I did. Absolutely.
Okay. And there was anything about that process? Because I understand from my team that researched this that you had not met them and you accepted the job. Was there anything different about other nanny positions you had in this one before you moved to Chicago?
Well, normally I met people in person, but this was a situation where they were having a baby and they just wanted me to, they liked my profile and they said, we'd like to hire you. And I said, okay, no problem.
Okay. And so you moved to Chicago, and then what you started and what, something I read about this article that you gave to us or information that they required you to be blindfolded for this first 6 months. Is that correct?
Yeah, 6 months is a long time if everybody pays attention. And I said, first of all, I hesitated. I said, why do they want to blindfold me? And I thought, well, you know what? They're paying me good money and I can take care of him being blindfolded. So I said, well, I'll just do it.
Right. So you blindfolded, you actually bathed Paul and you fed him and changed his diapers.
I did. I burped him. I read books to him. I did all kinds, just like you do to a normal baby.
Right. And so during that period of time, even though you couldn't see, and I see here on the notes that you called him Baby P. Is that right? Baby P?
Yes. Baby P, little P.
Right. And though you fell in love with him, and then eventually did you take the blindfolds off?
Yeah. After 6 months, they let me take the blindfold off.
And then, and what happened when you did that?
Oh my gosh. There's no word to describe it. I thought, oh, wait a minute, there's something wrong here. But I loved him.
Right. You fell in love with him. I understand that.
When you take a baby and you love them, you get connected to them like a mother does with her child. And I thought, oh gosh. But I thought, well, I can deal with this. I just got to deal with this because I already loved him.
So when you took the blindfold off and you saw him, what did he look like?
Oh my gosh. You know, I went to the dictionary and tried to figure out how could I describe him? Because I loved him. I didn't want to hurt him. He was still a baby. Didn't want to hurt him, but I thought, oh my gosh, what can I do? There was no word in the dictionary to describe. It was just ugly.
He was ugly, baby?
Yes.
Oh my.
But so, I still loved him.
Well, I could understand that. You took care of him for 6 months. And
yeah, you get attached to him.
and according to the story here, this devastated you so bad that you eventually, about a year later, a couple of years later, you were seeing a psychiatrist professional.
I was seeing 3 counselors. I was doing to figure out why did it bother me.
Wow. And according to the research here, that you came from a pretty large family. How many brothers and sisters did you have?
Oh, I had, you might not believe this, but I had 23 brothers and 16 sisters.
My. Were there a lot of triplets and twins or?
Oh, no. My mother was pregnant every year for 39 years.
Wow. Boy, that should be in the Guinness Book of Records.
Well, it was.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yes.
And the research team said that you called your brothers and sisters, and that you had them research, because you didn't have the internet back then, that you wanted to find the furthest place on the planet, according to these notes, away from baby P, and that's why you ended up in Zumba, Africa. Is that right?
That's right. And that's why I'm dressed. Hey, when I moved to Zumba, Africa, I took over their demeanor, whatever. And
right.
I don't even dress the same. I don't even look the same.
And you haven't been able to hold a baby since then. Is that right? Correct?
Absolutely.
Right. Well, now, we're going to run out of time here, and I appreciate you joining us all the way from Zumba, Africa. But I know you have they said you had a lot of stories. And there was one incident where the first time you took little baby P to the park in a stroller and you took him out. Can you tell a little bit about what happened with that?
Oh, yeah. I took him to the park and I pulled up, sat on a park bench, and there were other mothers and their children there and nannies. Some of them were nannies. And all of a sudden, I was holding him and they saw him and they just went in all directions. I mean, all directions. They left the park. There wasn't a squirrel. There wasn't anybody in the park but me and baby P.
Well, you mentioned squirrel. According to the notes here that I got here about your story, that you said that before baby P, that squirrels were normal, that they would just walk across the road like a dog would. Is that correct?
Yeah, or a turtle.
But what happened when this family of squirrels in the park saw baby P?
Well, when they saw him, they said, oh my gosh. They went up the tree, down the tree, to the left, to the right. They didn't know what direction to go in. They were so totally confused.
Wow. Well, I can relate to that because I don't like to hit animals on the road, and I've driven down a road before. I'm sure most people have, and you see a squirrel and they come out and they want to go to the left and they want to go to the right. And they don't know which way to go, and you don't know which way. So are you saying that baby P had that effect on the squirrel population?
Yes, because normally squirrels would be like a dog or a cat, just walk across the street. But what happened when they saw him, they got so totally confused. They just went up the tree, down the tree, to the right, to the left. And to this day, that's had an effect on all squirrels.
Around the world.
Throughout the world. It changed their whole demeanor.
Wow.
How they normally did stuff.
I did not know that. I did not know that. And we were trying to find some pictures of baby P, and you said there were pictures, but they were confiscated?
Yeah, the FBI came and confiscated them. And I thought, why would they do that? I never did find out the answer to that.
Well, I can enlighten you on that because I got some notes here. I have pretty good research, and I've got a private investigator named Dick, and my Dick is good. And he found out on here that the government was considering taking baby P's picture and duplicating it and taking it in a blimp and dropping it over a country and dropping the pictures. But they just had an ethical problem in doing that to civilization. So his pictures, baby pictures, are now secluded in some warehouse where the Ark is secluded at this point. So that's where the pictures are now. So I want to thank you for joining us, and I will pray that you get better, and we're glad that after all these years, you finally held your first baby last week. I'm just sorry that you went through such a trauma with all this. So, but God bless you, Randa Danda, and for being with us and to pay tribute to young P.
Thank you, Sam.
Well, thank you. And now I want to go to Paul's first love. Paul's first love is Cheryl, and Cheryl Fudius. I hope I'm saying that right. You fell in love. You went to school with Paul and fell in love with him in the 6th grade. Is that right, Cheryl?
Yes, I did. And he was a dreamboat.
A dreamboat.
A dreamboat.
Okay. So tell us your experience with Paul Carney.
Well, we went to school together, and I always secretly loved him, but I was just too afraid to let anybody know. And so finally, because, you know, he played a guitar in the band, and I just was one of his groupies, you know. I just loved him so much. So finally, I got my big chance, and I was so excited. And he asked me to go out with him one night. So I said, okay, I would. And I just kept pinching myself all evening because I was with Paul Carney. And so finally, he decided to tell me a joke. And he was such a hot little cutie, I just couldn't hardly focus. But he decided to tell me a joke, and I was trying to act real cool, you know, and go along with it. And he hit the punchline, and it was so funny that I laughed, I sneezed, and I farted all at the same time. And everybody started laughing. I even peed my pants. I couldn't take it any longer. I didn't care because I was laughing so hard, when all of a sudden, one of his friends walked by and shouted, "Oh my lands, look at that girl. She just peed her pants and she has a booger bubble coming out her nose." I could not believe it. I was laughing so hard. Everybody started laughing. I was so embarrassed. I just grabbed my face and I ran to the bathroom all the way. So could you believe something like that could happen to somebody?
And you know, it's my understanding, my research team here said that you never did marry. Is that correct? Never got married?
Never did. I couldn't keep my eyes and my mind off of Paul Carney. I mean, I could see a man that was a midget, and I'd see Paul Carney's face. I could see a bodybuilder, and I would see Paul Carney's face. I could see a man 500 pounds, and I would see Paul Carney's face. But do you know what? It didn't bother me. We went out on another date, a double date. And do you know what? We climbed in the back seat of that car, and we were making out. And the boy that was in the front said, "Who is that following us?" And we looked around, and some car was right up on our bumper. We couldn't figure it out. So the boy took me home first. And as we pulled into the house, you would not believe what happened.
What happened?
The car drove in beside me, and it was my daddy. He got out. He saw us making out. He pulled Paul Carney out into the yard and beat the crap out of him. And it was a good thing because I was so embarrassed. The very next day, we moved to Germany, and I never saw Paul again.
Wow. So you haven't been in contact with him at all, huh?
Not a bit.
But your heart still burns for him?
Always. In my
Wow.
dream, I dream of him.
Well, you
I'm
know,
in love with Paul Carney. I
well,
can't get enough of Paul Carney. I'm just
bless,
saying.
bless your heart. You're one of many women around the world that are
I'm sure.
to Paul Carney. Wow. Well, thank you for joining us. And I want to go to Paul when he was in school with Mel Lemons. Mel, are you there, Mel?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm
Okay.
here.
There you are. Okay, Mel. So
Hey, how you doing, Paul?
hey, listen, you were the dean
Is
of,
that Paul? This ain't Paul, is it?
no, but he's going to
This-
see this. But listen, you were the dean of students at the school that Paul went to. So do you remember Paul Carney as a student back then?
You gotta be kidding me. Do I have any recollection of Paul Carney's? Ask me. I have an unbelievable nightmare of a recollection of him.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he was
What
enrolled. Huh?
What happened? Tell us what happened.
Oh my Lord, he was a guy enrolled as a student, but he wasn't no student. Let me tell you that right now. He during his time there, he was brought or dragged. Oh, sorry, I was eating some black beans for supper tonight, and one of them black beans got caught on my tooth. Here, let me get rid of it. Hold on a minute.
Yeah, yeah.
Shoo!
I'd go to the
Yeah,
doctor.
yummy.
I would go to the doctor to get that checked out. I probably would.
No, it's a black bean that got stuck on my one tooth in my
Oh,
mouth.
I'm sorry. Okay.
And now I got to taste the beans again. That was good.
Well, that's
So
okay.
he
Well, go
enrolled
ahead
as a student.
about Paul.
Well, let me finish, man. I'll tell
Okay.
you if you want me to.
Well, go ahead.
When I'm telling you, he was either dragged or brought into my office dozens, and I mean dozens of times, for disciplinary reasons. Complaints were filed by students, teachers, cafeteria personnel, people, bus drivers, maintenance people, janitors, and even neighbors living in the proximity of the school. They even were filing complaints about him. He was responsible. He was responsible for this craze of, what starts with an M, and then the word, well, I can tell you what it is. Nothing. Everybody knows about it anyway. Nobody's doing it anymore. Mooning people as a gesture of displeasure, along with a certain hand gesture, which was later on to become popular, most popular between, and still is today, between motorists who are on the verge of road rage.
Wow.
Toward the end, yeah, it was something else. Let me tell you. And then toward the end, I was able to convince the whole school board and the sheriff's department to deploy a full-time deputy to assist me in the school with the problem. That deputy, I'll tell you his name. You can Google this and you find out. That name of that guy was Jacob R. Abramowitzer, Jr. That guy later on became famous as the first resource officer to be ever assigned to a school throughout. They, of course, number in the thousands today. So, one good thing about this whole thing is we can thank that Paul Carney for that. And I guess that's really a good thing. What do you think about that, Sam?
Well, that's something. And another thing that my researchers team found out that you shared with them, that Paul didn't do very good in school at all. He couldn't pass anything, not one single subject. The only thing he could pass was gas when he attended your school there. But
That's right.
You and the other teachers got together and collaborated and ended up going to Washington, D.C. to meet with the Senate and even the president and started a new program. Can you tell us about that for Paul?
Yeah, that was a program to give people the diplomas from school if
Okay.
they never finished. That's exactly right. That
And
all started out when we went down there to Washington and tried to figure out some way that we could, give a little bit of credit just for the fact that they showed up, even though they may have flunked everything, to get a diploma.
And what was that called back then? What did you have a name for the program?
Well, it was called, I can't remember that. I can't remember that far
Well,
back.
according to my notes here, it was the GEC for a general education.
Yeah. Carney, and then they sent GED. They changed it.
So are you saying to me that because of Paul Carney not doing well in school and you and the teachers having compassion on him to get him through to get a diploma, that you all went to Washington and started a program called the GEC for General Education Carney? And today, because of Paul Carney, we have what's called the GED, which is a General Education diploma?
That's right. That's exactly right. And that
Wow.
wasn't Washington. It wasn't Washington. It was Washington.
Well, it's called the GED. It's called the General Education Development Program. And Paul Carney is the one that originated that, huh?
I think that's right. That's what I understand from this point.
Okay, then last, and I need to go, I guess you and a lot of the teachers quit after Paul and the school was closed down, And you left the teaching, your profession,
Oh,
loved. What
you don't
happened to
remind me
you?
of that now. Oh, that's awful. I'll tell you something. Sometime after his permanent suspension, an article was published in the Chicago Tribune, which was a big newspaper back then, written by a Pulitzer Prize winning reporter by the name of John Josetti, which outlined my dismissal from the position as Dean of Students
Mm.
by the unanimous vote of the entire Board of Education for failing to discharge my duties. Listen to this. And I'll tell you what, I got a copy right now. I just found it out I went into my file, and here's a copy of that article right there that cut out from the newspaper. See, I don't know if you can see that or not.
Yeah, I see it. We see it. Yeah, yeah.
It's a picture of Paul and his parents taken, and the police taking him out of the school.
Wow.
Anyway, yeah. So then that article was published on the 8th of April, 1968. And since that time, I've never been able to find any employment in my field. And I now work here for the Department of Sanitation at the rear end of a truck flinging garbage. I will be
Wow.
recognized by my retirement here pretty soon from the sanitation department as the oldest working garbage man in the garbage and trash business. Then again,
Bless your heart.
then again, yeah, I know it's okay. Everybody got to be known for something. And so then again, some folks may know me as the father of Don Lemon. You know who Don Lemon is? He's
You
the
talking about
news
from CNN?
anchor at CNN. At CNN on the TV.
You're his
And
father.
I adopted him when he
Oh, okay.
when he came screaming out as a bait, when he just about the time when Paul's nanny got the news of Paul coming along is about the time I adopted him. He and my then ex-wife, my then wife, now the ex, of course, she and I adopted him. And during the time of that whole Carney situation, we adopted him. And whether you think Don Lemon represents, I don't know what you think of. He may represent fake news, or he may represent to you the real deal of news. He made us famous along with Paul.
Wow.
So that whole thing didn't really have anything to do with Paul, except that it all happened during that time. And we were trying to feel better about our circumstances. And we felt like if we adopted a kid, that would make us feel better. And that's where Don Lemon came from.
Yeah.
So I kind of thank Paul for that.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry that you went through all the trauma. I'm sorry all the teachers left the teaching industry, because God knows we need teachers. I'm sorry the school got closed down, but like you said, some good came out of it. He couldn't pass any classes, but he could pass gas. And you'll be happy to know that he's famous now. We have this virus going on, and he's set in motion a slogan out there that if you can smell their fart, then you're not far enough apart. So people are everywhere are running when they smell something. And, but listen, we wish you the best, and thank you for joining us on this call.
You're welcome. I was glad I could get a hold. You could get a hold of me. You sure did try enough times. I kept hanging up on you. You kept on wanting to talk to me. So thank you.
Yeah, well, you're welcome. You're welcome.
We
We wish you and your family the best, and we want to move over here. Paul went from school and went into the Air Force, and we have on here with us the Sergeant Smartman. Sergeant Smartman, you were his drill sergeant in the Air Force. Do you remember young Paul Carney?
Well, Mr. Pitts.
Yeah, call me Sam. Call me Sam.
Mr. Pitts, thank you. Okay, Mr. Pitts, thank you for letting me be on the line tonight. I just wanted to let you know, Mr. Airman Carney was pathetic from the get-go. He showed up and we thought he might be a trained killer. And I asked him to his face, I said, Carney, he said, yes, sir. I said, do you think you could kill somebody? And he said, no, sir. I said, Carney, listen, I'm going to ask you again. Do you think you could kill somebody? And he said, no, sir. I said, Carney, listen to me. I'm going to ask you one more time. I'm going to ask you a third time. I think you could kill somebody. Can you kill somebody? He said, no, sir. And I said, Carney, dadgummit, you ain't been here 5 minutes and you've already made me mad. So he's a special person. I'm want to tell you, Mr. Pitts.
Call me
He's
Sam.
a-
Call me Sam. Now,
Okay, Sam. Yes, sir.
my understanding, when he came there right away, you made him a platoon group leader over several men, but it wasn't a few days you found out there was a hygiene problem. Paul wasn't taking baths, and what was he doing with his men? He was having them change clothes every day, but tell us about that quickly.
Well, the thing is, Sam, is we thought Carney had some potential, and so we put him in a role of a squad leader. And
Right.
we were noticing that as we had drill and we come back, the place was stinking. And I come to find out that the airmen that he was working with weren't taking baths. They weren't taking showers. They were just exchanging clothes. They were stinking up the place. And things started smelling down here at Cheney Air Force Base in Illinois. And he was just pathetic. And I said, Carney, do you understand what it means to use soap and water? And he said, well, sir, I do. I said, well, listen to me. You have to use the shower, my son. You have to use the shower. You
Right.
can never make it out of here. Do I got to show you how to take a shower? He said, no, sir, I'll figure it out. So I had them all go in the shower, Mr. Pitts. I'm sorry. I had them go all in the shower, and they all had to demonstrate to me they could take a shower. I think we got that remedied.
Well, I'm sorry to say that, from our research here, we've found out that there's several hotel chains that he's not allowed to stay in around the country. But anyway, you have a situation that he wasn't able to pivot his feet and make a left turn and a right turn. You'd say, right turn, and he'd look down at his feet. He couldn't. Is that true? Is that story true?
You know, it's really ironic. We told this boy 3 and 4 times when we marched to put your heels on the ground. And when we hit that heel, we'll tell you left, right, left, right, left, right. We do that for about the first 5 days so you figure out what's your left and what's your right. Now, the boy could do that when I talked to him, but when I left him on his own and I told him, listen to me, I told him when I said left face, he kept wanting to do a right.
Wow.
Because he didn't know if it meant my left or his right, his left. You follow me?
Yeah. Well,
It's pathetic. It was absolutely pathetic.
and I guess on the merit system that when you're in basic training like that you get one weekend during your stay in basic to be able to go home. And his home was only an hour from the training base there. And he was the last one. And finally, you all had mercy and let him go. And he left on a Friday, borrowed a friend's car, but he never made it home that weekend. It was only an hour away. What happened with that, Sergeant?
Well, let me say this before we let him go home. He couldn't polish his boots.
Yeah.
You know, he spilled polish all over the floor, made a mess of the place. I mean, we had to have a white tornado. You know what a white tornado is?
No, I don't think I do.
A white tornado is when my team and I go in and tear up the place, and we throw bed sheets everywhere. We throw pillows. We throw foot lockers and stuff everywhere.
I'm with you.
And we
I'm
make
with you.
those guys go clean up that white tornado. You know what Carney did? He thought it was normal. That's how weird that was. He thought it was normal. So guess what? We finally figured out, Mr. Pitts. I'm sorry, Sam. You ever seen the movie Gomer Pyle?
I have, yeah.
Well, you know what? They should have called him Gomer Carney. Gomer Carney. I think that would have fit better because he was something else. And so guess what? He finally figured out how to do left face. He finally figured out how to take a shower. So we gave him an opportunity to head home to go see his parents. And I don't know what the boy did, but he went home, and I was told that he never got home. Because when we showed him how to clean the restrooms, you hearing me? Are you hearing me?
I hear you fine. Yeah, like clean the
Okay.
lanes.
So when he hit clearing those restrooms, he was going down the interstate and he saw a restroom. And can you believe that boy got in there and he saw the dirty floors and stuff? He started cleaning the state of Illinois restroom at one of the exits. He stayed there for 2 days.
Well, you know, I
2
have
days.
notes
Can you,
here. My research team said that he was driving home and he saw a sign that said clean restrooms ahead. And he pulled in and spent 2 days cleaning that restroom. Is that correct?
that's exactly right. I was surprised the boy ever made it through his academics and training. It was just unbelievable. So
Yeah,
yes,
and-
sir, we found him cleaning the restrooms.
Yeah, and it says here that the state there that was the person overseeing that restrooms roadside stop, that was the cleanest that latrine has ever been, except for when they first built it and opened it up. So he did a good job cleaning it up.
Yeah, he did a fantastic job to where the point the governor of the state of Illinois wanted to name the rest area after him. Can you believe that?
Wow. Well, listen, I want to
Unbelievable.
thank you for your patience and working with him, and thank you for
Let
serving.
me tell you one more thing. Let me tell you one more thing. You
Okay.
know, just because, you know, look, he had a good heart, but he wasn't cut out to be a U.S. Air Force airman. And we had to discharge him, had to send him back to his home there in Illinois so he can do what he needs to do. But it was an honor to at least try to help the boy, but we couldn't figure it out.
Yeah. So if I'm hearing you correctly, what you're saying is our country is much safer by not having him part of the military service.
Mr. Pitts, I mean, Sam, that seems pretty clear to me. What do you think?
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for your patience and working with him. And again, thank you for serving our country. And now we got a real treat. Paul has a twin brother, and I have not met him in person, but I've seen his pictures, and he looks exactly like Paul, but he doesn't sound like him. And we're having some camera difficulties, so we're not able to get his picture. We'll try to do that. Peter, are you there? Can you hear me?
Hi, Sam. Yes, I'm here. Thanks for asking.
Okay, good. And you never have met your twin brother, Paul, because you were separated right after birth. You had some physical problems, and so your aunt and uncle took you, and you're over in Africa now because of the environment, and you've been part of the Peace Corps over there all these years. And but your picture, you look exactly like Paul. And I could say this, that if his wife was walking down a corridor in the Los Angeles airport and saw you sitting in a seat, she would walk right over and sit in your lap because you look exactly like him. Are you identical twins?
We are identical twins. Yes.
And then you're triplets. You have a sister, Paul, and then you're Peter. And what's your sister's name?
Her name is Mary.
So Peter, Paul, and Mary, huh?
Yeah,
I think we might have the camera ready now. Let's see if we can get the camera working. And you look, there you are. My word. You do look exactly like a twin brother of Paul Carney.
Well, I guess he looks good then, because I know I look good.
Well, you're exactly right about that. So is there anything you would like to say to your twin brother and wish him a happy birthday, and maybe someday you'd like to meet him?
Well, I've spent my entire life searching. This has been a dream come true. You know, I've been looking for you my entire life. I can't wait. I hope you'd be willing to build a relationship with me. Here in South Africa, I'm in Cape Town. It's a lot to see here. We have whales, we have sharks, we have great whites, and we have a lot of snakes and stuff here. You know, it's a bit of its own world here. I'd love to get to meet you. Love to have you come here, and I'd love to get to make it stateside sometimes. You know, got a little tongue twisted there. As you said before, I have a little bit of a physical difficulty, so it's mental as well sometimes. So yeah.
Yeah, and you know something you two have in common, and maybe it just came through your DNA, your genes. Paul is a very accomplished guitar player, and I understand you're a very accomplished piano player.
Yes. I'm a concert level pianist. I've studied more than 20 years.
Wow. Well, maybe you ought to reunite with your sister and maybe form a group and maybe call yourself something like the Golden Trio, or maybe
we could call ourselves the Holy Grail.
What now?
The Holy Grail.
The Holy Grail, or maybe Peter, Paul, and Mary, something like that.
That'd be great too. Yeah. Yeah,
Well, listen,
I love
thank
it.
you, and we're glad that you're very healthy. We thank you for serving in the Peace Corps, and we'll pray that you do get to meet your twin brother. But I will tell you that if you, both of you are in the same room together, I won't know which one of you is Peter and which one of you are Paul.
So it's that identical. I've never seen him. You know, I know he looks as much as like me as I do. So I'm excited to get to meet him.
Yeah, well, you've
One day.
seen his pictures. You've seen his pictures, right?
Right. I've seen some of his pictures.
So when you look at a picture of him, do you think you're looking at yourself?
More or less, I do so. Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining us, and we look forward to meeting you someday. And I
You
want
too.
to now to a gentleman by the name of Shu Man Go. And Shu Man Go is from Singapore, and he goes by Richard. And Richard, thank you for joining us. And I guess you met Paul McCartney. I'm not Paul McCartney. I want to say Paul McCartney. Paul Carney years ago, and you were in business together. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, sir, Mr. Pitts. Yes. I met
Call me
Mr.
Sam,
Paul.
please. Call me Sam.
Okay, I'll call you Sam. Yeah, I met Mr. Paul long time ago.
Okay, and you and your wife and your family had a very successful multi-billion-dollar business in Singapore.
Yes.
Paul, and according to our research here, you didn't really buy into him right away, but the more you spent with him, and what did he bring to you? What kind of an idea or venture did you work with Paul Carney on?
Yeah, Paul came to Singapore and he proposed me an idea of a one chopstick diet. And I thought it was kind of weird in the beginning. Later on I realized, well, you know what? Why not?
Okay, hold on just a minute. I think we got a mic on. I think Peter over in that. Peter, can you turn your mic off? Peter, turn your mic off, Peter. Peter, your mic is on. Oh, there you go. Okay. Now, will you tell us about the business venture with Paul Carney?
Yeah, Mr. Paul come to Singapore and then met up with my family and he proposed a one chopstick diet.
A what now?
Yeah, one chopstick diet. Initially, I was like, that's weird. But
You're talking about one chopstick?
one chopstick. Yes, one chopstick.
Well, wait just a minute. Hold on just a minute. I think I might, hold on. I'm gonna be right back. Hold on there, Richard. I think I might have one. Hold on just a minute. Be right back.
Okay.
I just happen to have one. Now, this is not the one chopstick diet, but I have one chopstick right here. So you're talking about this here, a one.
Yes, sir. That's why he's talking. And I felt it's kind of weird, but he said he done his research in the United States and it's going to be a multi-billion-dollar business. And me and my wife talk about it and say, you know what, why not? We have been in business all the time. Why not just try it?
Wow.
Okay.
You and your wife and your family eventually was won over by Mr. Carney, and you went out and you had 200 million one chopsticks made, and he went back to the States, and then you never heard from him again after that, and you were stuck with all these chopsticks. Is that right?
That is correct. Sam, we built 200 million chopsticks ready to distribute. And then all I know was there's a study done in US, one chopsticks can eat 6 donuts and nobody wants this one chopsticks diet at all.
Right, so he went back to the States and somebody discovered how you could put 6 Krispy Kreme donuts on one stick, and that did away with the one chopstick diet.
There you go. All the dream just went true. One chopstick gone. Nada.
Wow. Well, now, what did you do with 200 million chopsticks in a warehouse?
I found someone that willing to get rid of it. They bought it for 5 cents to $1, and they use it for building charcoal. They use it to burn for charcoal.
Wow.
Well,
and so your billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar family business went bankrupt 3 months after you met Paul Carney because
Yes,
one
just dropped.
diet.
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm no businessman, Richard. I've made a couple dollars on a few things, and like you, I've lost. So I've been up and down. But when I eat Chinese food, and I'm sure you probably do too, how many chopsticks does it take to eat Chinese food?
2 chopsticks.
2. Well, why? I'm just thinking here for a moment. Why didn't you and your family take one chopstick diet and another chopstick diet and put them together and sell them as a set?
You know what? Nobody tells us that. Why don't, now that you tell me, I wouldn't have lost the business.
You mean you never thought of that?
No, I was so on into one chopsticks diet.
Wow.
But I was sold.
Well, I wish I would have known you back then, because if I would have thought of that idea of putting one chopstick together with another and selling it, we could have sold them as sets around the world.
Exactly. Oh my God. How come Mr. Paul ran away and don't even tell me that?
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that your family went through that, but you know what? Life is winter, spring, summer, fall, and I'm sure your family will, even though you went bankrupt, and I guess you said something to me on the report here about the Interpol. They're still looking for Paul Carney?
Yeah, they're looking for Mr. Paul. If you see Mr. Paul, let me know. I'll go US and find him.
Okay. Well, listen, we wish you and your family and your lovely wife the best, and thank you for joining us on the call. And now our last one, we have Dr. Ben Butzman. Dr. Ben, are you there?
Yes, sir, Sam.
Oh, wow.
You okay?
Now listen.
I just got out of a procedure, so I'm just kind of between operations here. So.
Oh, wow. Well, I know that you're busy with the virus and everything going on right now, so thank you for taking time out of your schedule. And you have an interesting story. You didn't know the Carney family, but you were working at the emergency room with a group of people on night shift, and into the morning, and you got a call to go to his house. And what happened, Dr. Butzman?
That's correct. Well, Sam, we received a call that somebody was choking to death. Mr. Carney's wife, Teresa, had called, and Mr. Carney had taken a lot of pills. Apparently, he takes a lot of vitamins and supplements, so many, in fact, that they lodged in his throat, and he was actually choking. So the ambulance was dispatched, and we brought him to the ER. We were able to get some hot tea and fluids down into him and dissolve those pills. So we get him out of this very dangerous situation, and he looks up at the nurse, and he goes, "Do you have a pill for this?"
Are you kidding me?
No, we knew he was quite a character from the beginning, but that incident is nothing compared to the stories we could tell regarding Mr. Carney and our ER department.
Wow. Well, I know I have a list here, but there was one here where you got a call and sent it over there, and he was having a physical problem and kind of unusual. You want to tell us about that one with the diarrhea situation?
Yeah. Well, he signed off with a HEPA, so we can actually talk about this a little more openly. But there was this time we were called to the Carney residence, and we got there. Mr. Carney had one of the most severe cases of explosive diarrhea really ever medically recorded. I mean, it was a mess everywhere, their house, everywhere. The EMTs were able to finally get him tied down to the gurney, and they got him in the ambulance and down to the ER so we could meet with him. We have a particular stopping product in a situation like this. It's metal or a plastic cap, but in this case, we actually ended up finding a cork on top of a jar. It was about a 6-inch in diameter, so to speak. They brought that cork back, and we called security. Several of our interns came over, and we finally got Mr. Carney calmed down and sedated. We got that cork in place, but we're having a challenge keeping the cork there. This is where the story gets interesting. Jim, one of our security guards, was always trying to invent something new, and he was working on this new type of tape. He runs out to his truck, comes back in with the tape. We get the cork in position. We wrap the tape around Mr. Carney, around his back section, and we get this diarrhea stopped once and for all. Of course, we get him medically stable, and after about 3 days, he was fine and went home. It was quite an experience. We actually had to destroy the ambulance as a result of the diarrhea damage. Yeah, it was pretty bad.
You had to actually do away with the ambulance. It was that bad?
It was that bad. And actually some of the, how do I phrase this? The residual splatter, for lack of a better description, gave several of us attending 2nd and 3rd degree burns on arms and faces. I'm still not sure what he had eaten. We eventually had to close down the emergency room for several weeks, do some remodeling on the wing of the hospital. And really, the sad part of this is that staff of 23 health professionals on that fateful shift, nearly every one of them left the medical profession with various levels of PTSD. Many are still in some sort of therapy. Some we don't even know where they are, and many are just haven't left their homes since that incident.
Wow. And my understanding, something that good came out of this is the gentleman you said that made the tape, Jim, who was always trying to make stuff. He came in a couple weeks later, and out of this incident with Mr. Carney, because of things that happened in the emergency room, he found the name of the tape, and they. How did that happen? What happened?
Well, you know, he come running in after this thing. Of course, it was very unorthodox, but a very successful procedure, if you will. And he goes, "I got the name for the tape, the name for the tape." And of course, I'm listening. He says, "We should call the tape that we used on Mr. Carney duct tape, because everybody on the ship that night, when Mr. Carney was in his condition and things were flying everywhere, everyone was screaming, 'Duck, duck, duck.' So Jim says, 'I'm going to call it duct tape.'"
Wow. Well, I've heard of duct tape. I have some here. So Jim and Paul Carney, this incident, out of this came duct tape worldwide?
Yes, sir.
Wow. Wow. And then our research team found out here that you were out for a while because this had such a drama on you, and you were out for several months, but then you were able to come back in because of your prior training as a doctor. Would you share a little bit about that, Dr. Butzman?
Well, my prior training as a doctor, I'm a proctologist. I haven't actually admitted it to too many people, but for about 3.5 years, I was in my own counseling and therapy, and actually recovering from the burns that I received from that, Mr. Carney. But I did eventually get back into my medical profession and working as a proctologist. Yes.
Wow. Wow. And then my team found out that you, out of this situation, you wrote a bestseller book and have generated millions of dollars about your shift that night that dealt with this with Mr. Carney, and wrote that. And you've donated all of the money. You've kept none of the money yourself. You've donated to all these people that worked the shift that night that are no longer in the medical profession. Tell us about your book, and what is the name of your book, Dr. Butzman?
I am so proud about this book. This book, we call it Shift Happens by Dr. Penn. Shift Happens. And you are right. I've dedicated this to all those shift workers that gave their very best that evening. Many of them completely devastated by and overwhelmed by Mr. Carney's condition. And so it's a bestseller, and you're right. I've donated all the money that I've gotten from this to help those poor families recover.
Wow. Wow. What a story. Well, I have to say to all of you, if you'll turn your cameras on, thank you for coming from all the different parts of the world. And thank you for being here. And all of you, I got to say, you did a good job tonight. You all should receive Academy Awards. You were wonderful. Peter, are you there, Peter? You all did a great job. You want to compare each other, how good you guys did?
Awesome.
Did you have fun?
That was absolutely
Had a great
amazing.
job.
I want to go to college with John. I want to go to college with John.
Oh, wow. Well, we all love Paul. He's a great guy.
Oh, incredible.
Hey,
We
thank you, Sergeant.
hope you enjoyed this, Paul.
Yeah.
You did a great job. We're sorry about all this one stick diet there. But you all did a great job, and we've taken up enough time. Let's all sing happy birthday to Paul. You ready?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Happy
Yes, sir.
birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Paul.
Dear Paul.
Happy
Birthday to
Paul.
you.
We love you, Paul. We love you.